Hello. Hopefully you can see me and hear me in my very sexy room. It tells me that we've gone live. I don't trust this internet at all, so please let me know if you can hear me and see me. Hello, hello. Nice to see early comers to the group. Who was first? Oh God, the light's very unflattering in here. Anyway, who was first? Fiona and then Kay. Hello, Fiona and David. Hello, Kay. Hello, Peter and Karen. Cody and John. Hi, Dan. Happy morning. Dan, you're having some Estetico. It's 11 o'clock in Greece. Excellent. Good to hear. I have Chardonnay 2024. It's room temperature, but the room's not very warm here in Cambridge, so hopefully that's going to work too. I have the most ridiculously small glass, but it is a wine glass, so we'll see how that goes. I can resort to my takeaway coffee mug if need be. Hello, Rita. Who haven't I said hello to? Hello, Emily and Kevin. Hello, Nareem and all the guys. Hello, Jeff and Sue. I got into big trouble for not saying hello to Sue and Daryl 2 weeks ago, so I'm not sure if you're here. I know. The English actually do glasses really well, but I am in a student college. Hang on, I'm just going to, before we taste the wine, seeing as how we're doing. So, Shell and Andrew, hi, how's the train to Paris? I'm going to show you my room because I made my bed specially for you. So this is, it's what you would imagine a student room to look like. I'm on a twirly chair. It's tiny. Hello, Sue and Daryl. How you going? I do have a nice view out into the courtyard, but you can't see that because it's too sunny. And you'll be very proud of me. I've packed my suitcase and I've tidied my room and I've made my bed. So there you go. Pretty bleak. But who needs a nice room when we've got, hang on, let's get rid of that door. That looks awful. That's slightly better. White background. There is a kettle, Peter and Karen, and tea. I've had mugs of tea this morning. The coffee at the breakfast buffet was pretty appalling. The window's gorgeous, Rita, and the view out there. If I'll try and show it to you later once we've got some wine tasting done. If the internet's still working, because I'm really worried about losing you. So let's do this, and I'll tell you about all the fun of England a little bit later. So Chardonnay 2024. Hello, Linda. I'm feeling sad that I didn't bring my travel glass. But honestly, I could not have fitted another piece of paper in my suitcase when I packed, and then my suitcase died on me, so I had to buy a new suitcase anyway in London. So that was a little experience that I really didn't need. Anyway, 2024 Chardonnay. Dan, a triggering from when you were at uni. I know. I don't think my university room here has this. If I do. I've got a desk lamp and I'm just trying to, it's shining in my eyes, but is that slightly better? That's slightly better lighting, slightly less flattering. Hi, everyone. Anyway, good, excellent. Okay, it's seriously the tiniest glass of wine that you've ever seen. I've put too much wine in there now, so this is going to go really well. 9 o'clock in the morning, breakfast wine in a tiny glass. Here's cheers to you guys. So, 24 Moorooduc Estate Chardonnay. I don't know if any of my family are on. Peter, Jill, Richard, Nina, anyone? Hopefully you're watching. I forgot to send Dad the link, so hopefully Peter's sorted him out. All right. So, can't smell a thing out of that glass, but I have tasted this wine before, so I can talk about it. It's looking correct. 2024 Chardonnay, we've just released it at Cellar Door. We released it a little bit earlier than we planned to because people have been screaming at us for Chardonnay since the 2023 sold out months ago. Peter and Karen, I think you're right. I think also You'll be pleased to know when I came into this room, it smelt of a cloud of Coco Chanel. I think that the last woman who stayed here must have kind of bathed in Coco Chanel and then just kind of wiped her perfume-clad skin all over all of the surfaces. That's kind of gone away a little bit, so I can actually smell the wine. I agree, Fee. Hello, Jill, Richard, Polly, Tallulah Bell, and Peter. Hi. Thanks, Pete. And you'll have to excuse my outfit. I'm in my traveling clothes because I have to leave the room as soon as I finished with you guys. All right, so wine. Let's do the wine. It's got such a beautiful color to it, even with these slightly yellow walls. It's pale golden, very pale golden, with a little hint of green. And on the nose, I do get white blossom, absolutely, Fee. I also get a really lovely kind of lemon zest. When you're making, when you're zesting a lemon, and you get all those fresh lemon oils that kind of waft up into your face. And Jack and Shasha probably, they're probably listening but not watching from under the bed. Okay. Shell, I think in Berlin beer is a breakfast beverage. So yeah, absolutely. And if you're in Italy, you'd be having a little grappa and an espresso and an orange juice. Little bit of vanilla, Fee. Thank you. Get me back on track. There is a little bit of vanilla there. There's a almost lemon barley water kind of freshness to it, which I think is really delightful. It's very, very young, but it's looking really zesty and beautiful right now. There's some white peach just coming up in the glass a little bit. And I think that it's a very classic Moorooduc Estate Chardonnay. All right, let's taste. Well, I've got to say this beats tasting wine during the lockdown at 3 o'clock in the morning for my English customers. It's actually looking really delicious. I have had breakfast. It's got a beautiful, and Shell's getting paper cup on the nose. You have to send me a photograph, Shell and Andrew, please, of your train tasting. I have done it before. I'm sure I'll do it again. Just lovely to have you on board. Paper cup is one of the worst things. Hello, Alison. How are you going? You're tuning in from Bali. Are you still in Bali? Looks like an amazing trip. I have tasted wine. I have tasted wine out of my Keep cup before, but it makes it smell of coffee. So I'm glad that I don't have to do that. For those of you who don't know, Shell and Andrew are on a train from Germany to Paris. You're back. Oh, well, it looked like a lovely trip. Shell and Andrew are on a train to Paris this morning. And they said they were going to bring their bottle of Chardonnay with them and taste it. So I think that paper cup is probably the only option on the train. So good work. I'm getting a little bit of slight kind of truffly lift and spice, which is really yum. Okay, you're having some wholemeal spaghetti with your carbonara. How delicious. I do think this is going to be a fabulous wine with a carbonara, even though I have said to you in the past that I'm slightly anxious about wine with eggs. I think carbonara, if you get it just right, then the egg cooks enough on the hot pasta and in a little bit of hot water from the pasta cooking will set the egg enough that it kind of clings to the pasta and doesn't cling so much to your lips. But I would probably have a little serviette on the side so that you can just wipe the carbonara sauce off your mouth before you take a sip of the wine, because otherwise your wine glass might get a bit gluggy and you will smell the eggs on the wine. I also had to wash this glass out because God knows what's been in it beforehand. There's the floral characters are coming up really nicely. I think that for me, for my food match, I've been to the college breakfast this morning. And I smuggled out a croissant that I made a croissant sandwich with croissant and English pork sausages. It looks great. I think it'll be quite nice. So I've got a little bit of croissant end, first of all, just without the sausage, to see how that goes. I think the butteriness and the slight sweetness of a croissant is going to bring out the cereal and brioche kind of notes in the wine, which I always see in our Chardonnay. Here goes. In fact, it kind of supplants the pastry character in the wine, which I was just seeing just before I started my croissant. It brings up the lemon and almost a lemon curd kind of tanginess in the wine, which I think is rather awesome. I was saying before, I'm getting some spicy notes and a little kind of slightly truffly note as well coming through the wine, which is not something that I usually see in the Chardonnay when it's this young. It might be my little tiny glass that's kind of concentrating things, but I do like that slightly exotic. It's almost a bacon fatty little note to the wine, which is why I thought carbonara, egg and bacon, a little bit of cheese, and I think that it will also, which is why I stole some pork sausage, because I actually think Chardonnay is a fantastic match to pork generally. A pork sausage from an English breakfast buffet is not the greatest culinary success in the world, but they're one of my secret pleasures. So English sausages, I think, tend to have a bit more, well, the English would say they've got more meat in them. I think they've got more bread in them than a lot of Australian sausages. And pork sausages for breakfast with lots and lots of sage and thyme in them is a big thing. So here we go. Let's give that a go. Lots of salt too. That's really good. A lot of street drinking in Berlin, Alison. Yeah, absolutely. So I think the sweetness of the pork meat and the saltiness of the sausage works really, really well with the wine. It brings out more of the savouriness in the wine, but the lemoniness is refreshing after a bit of fatty sausage. So I think that's done well with the breakfast. If I could have made myself a little, yes, Jill, it's definitely a free range sausage from a happy pig. I'm traveling, it's difficult. And I didn't think that it would really go very well with Special K cereal, which was my other option. So enough of that. Alison's thinking about doing carbonara pizza with leftover wine. Oh, that'd be delicious. It'd be very good. So cheesy, bacony, bready flavours are going to work really, really well with this wine. Because it's got enough sharpness to kind of cut through the fat. It's got that nice mealiness to bring up the sweetness of things. It's a beautiful Chardonnay. It's a beautiful food wine. One of the things that people have been saying to me on my trip here, because they're all running out of the wine that they've got in stock, and we've got wine on the water, but not necessarily ordered in the quantities that they might need after doing a wonderful tasting with me, which has been nice. We had a tasting on Tuesday night in Worcester, and everyone afterwards was so blown away. They said, "Oh, this is some of the best wine we've ever tasted," which was really nice. Linda's having cheesy, creamy, homemade minced nachos. Okay, I think that would be good as long as you haven't put too much chili spice on there. I think the chili spice is going to fight with this wine quite a lot, but that's yum. It is lovely, Fee. They all got quite emotional. They were like, oh, "This is some of the most lovely wine we've ever tasted in the world." It wasn't just the customers. It was the owner of the shop as well, which was lovely. And again, last night in Cambridge, had a room full of people. We had a lovely time. We actually had we had the 2021 Chardonnay that they had on the shelf, and then we did a bracket of Pinot Gris and then a bracket of Pinot Noirs. And they're like, "Can we get some more Chardonnay?" I'm like, "Oh, maybe a few cases, but it's very tightly allocated because I've got a lot of very special people who I need to make sure that I have some for at home." So I guess I'm saying I have a feeling that this Chardonnay is going to sell out quite quickly as well. I know some of you have already jumped on it. and bought some when I sent out the offer a couple of weeks ago, and thank you for that, sight unseen. Now that you've had a chance to taste it, if you feel that you need a few more bottles in your cellar, then you don't need to buy them tomorrow, but it's probably a good idea to get them sooner rather than later, because it's selling like hotcakes, as they say. So what's been happening in England? I can report that there's some really delightful sparkling wines being made in the south of England that we'll probably never see in Australia. But if you do come over here, you must try and taste, drink the sparkling wines from Sugrue South Downs. That's my hot tip. Dermot, the winemaker, he and his wife make the wine. We didn't meet his wife, and I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but I'll get all that information to you. But Dermot, who looked after us, is an Irishman. Couldn't be anything else with a name like that. He's an Irishman who's worked for some of the big companies. He worked for Nye Timber as a winemaker for quite a long time. Sugrue, Sugrue is the name. Sugrue South Downs. And he was a really delightful. I know, Fee. Some of the wine names are very, very British. He makes some really beautiful sparkling wines. It's small. It's kind of a bit of a. It reminded me of the Moorooduc setup. It's kind of, they've got the same presses as us. They're about the same sort of volume as us, and it's all handcrafted by the husband and wife team, and the wines are beautiful. Cotty, I'm going to tell you something even sadder about the apple orchards in a minute, and it'll make you angry and sad at the same. Well, I'll tell you now. When we were at that vineyard where I took the photo of me with the enormous Brumley apple, those trees were just on the edge of the vineyard, and it had all been apple orchards in prior times. Breaky Bottom's fantastic. Well, Pete, hello, Jeremy. Hi. Breaky Bottom from Sugrue South Downs. Actually, Breaky Bottom we tasted at Sugrue South Downs, and Dermot explained to us that it's Yorkshire. Yes, Pete. Thank you. The Yorkshire or maybe it wasn't Yorkshire. Anyway, the terminology from somewhere. Breaky Bottom. Breaky actually does mean windy, which we all had a little internal giggle about when he started telling us this. But bottom is the name for a valley, so Windy Valley is the translation of that name. But I think Breaky Bottom's a much better name for a wine brand. So, Cotty, the apple trees that still stand, the farmers have been so worried about selling their fruit that they've signed contracts with the supermarkets who control all of the fruit and veg sales in the UK, such that if the supermarkets deem that they've got enough of anything, they won't take the fruit from the farm, but the farmers are not allowed to use the fruit either because it belongs to the supermarket. So they have to leave it on the trees, they have to let it fall on the ground, they have to let it rot. It's really, I don't understand how people could have got to such a state of being controlled by these bastards in the supermarkets. Hello, all the supermarket buyers out there. I just think it's absolutely appalling, and it's going to destroy farming if people don't do something about it. So I think there are people who are trying to get into selling their wine through farmers markets and that kind of thing here, but the supermarkets have so much power. Alison, I don't know. I think that they get audited quite regularly. England's a small place. It's and I think that they're very good at conforming to the rules. So that's the other thing. The lady who told us, I posted a photo of her. She was really cool. Oh my God, my glasses are filthy. Sorry. I was wondering why I was seeing black spots, but they're on my glasses. The lady who was telling us was in one of my photos that I posted with the short purple hair. She was an absolute firecracker. But she didn't own the farm. She worked for the family who owned the farm, and the family who owned the farm are landed gentry. Lovely. We met the son who is running the business now, but they've lived up in the manor house for generations, and wine. They and a number of other people who are doing a similar thing, who've been on the land for a long time farming. They said that having vines in their on their property has been an absolute revelation for them, because they can see the fruits of their labor. And this is incredible food waste, Jackie. It's just absolutely appalling. But they said, rather than growing stuff and sort of packaging up and sending it off to the supermarkets, they're now growing grapes. They've got these beautiful vines on the property that people want to come and see. They're beautiful properties. They're either making the wine themselves, or they're getting the wine made for them by contract winemakers, and then they're bringing it back to the farm to sell it at their cellar doors. And they're finding that hard work and a really different way of doing business, because you've got much more responsibility for the sort of the production and the on-selling of the wine. So it's a bigger investment than perhaps, signing contracts with supermarkets to have your potatoes and apples taken away. But they're really enjoying having that control over their land, and having something that they're proud of, and that they can sell to their customers coming off their land. So it's a sad story about the apples and pears and raspberries and soft fruits that they used to farm on those properties, but it's a really lovely story that grape growing has given them back power over their land, which they seem to have lost to the market forces of the big supermarket buyers, which I think it's one of the saddest things about coming to England these days, is that yes, they have some fabulous markets, but so much more. There's so much more concentration of food in the supermarkets, and people buying from the supermarkets rather than independent grocers and things like that. It's really, really hard for anyone who's growing fruit. And it's, again, it's all of that conversation about it being expensive to grow fruit here, and it's cheaper to buy it from Spain. They're worried also about food security. If people stop farming in England, and then it gets too hot in Southern Europe for the things that they like to buy, then where are they going to get their apples and pears and things from? But yeah, it's a conversation that has to keep being had, because we don't seem to be doing a very good job of looking after farmers and farmland. That also said, in the UK, they have a green wedge policy that came in the 1950s, I think, around London, which is why we now still have all of these farms in southern England, rather than London creeping all the way down to the coast, which is what looked like was going to happen after World War II. So talking to people here, it's a positive, negative thing. The English wines are expensive. The sparkling wines are I think, good value for money still. I think they're worth the best ones are worth the expense. The table wines, I can't be as kind about. Pinot Noir particularly. Two things that sort of horrified me a little bit. They're growing a lot of Pinot Noir here, and it's getting easier to grow here as the climate warms up. So they're getting more ripeness, and they're doing what all of us who planted Pinot Noir and didn't quite know they're getting a little bit overripe sometimes. And I don't know if they've got all of the right clones planted here yet. There's a lot of German clones that seem to make quite hard, hollow wine. If you want to make hard, hollow wine, that's fine. But I think the big problem is that because they're lacking a bit of richness in the wine from the grapes, they're then putting the wine into new American oak to try and give it some richness and sweetness. It's just making really clunky, ugly Pinot at the moment. I think that will be something that they will sort out over time. and I am absolutely sure that they will make beautiful Pinot Noir in the south of England. The Chardonnays are well on their way. We had some delicious Chardonnays. Peter, I'm glad that you wrote that out, because I was just going to talk about that. The bonkers zombie robot alien monsters from the future ate my brain. Sur lit, in brackets, Pete, is an incredible wine, and the story behind it is incredible. It's a Chardonnay-based wine. It's got 3 vintages in it, so it's non-vintage. Because the first one that they made, that it was picked in a hot year. It was super ripe. It was high sugar that converted to Jeremy. That's okay. Jeremy's been telling everyone that we're sold out of Chardonnay already. So yeah, good idea. Yeah, the bonkers zombie robot alien monsters from the future ate my brain. Sully wine. The first one that they made was just was so high in sugar, but had amazing flavour. He said it came out as like a 16% wine, with a bit of residual sugar. I'm like, how did you get that in England? So they're like, it finally fermented out. Oh, sorry, it was 14% and had residual sugar, and then it finally fermented out to about 15.5, 16%, and then because it was such a big wine, they just sort of kept it in barrel, thinking, what are we going to do with this wine? And so then they made a slightly more normal Chardonnay the next year, and the following year. In fact, I think the middle one was a bit underripe, so they've done a sort of Solera blend and put it all together to make this incredibly complex wine that of course it sells brilliantly. I mean, who wouldn't buy a bottle of wine called Bonkers Zombie Robot Alien Monsters from the Future Ate My Brain, Sully, non-vintage Chardonnay? I'd buy it just so that I could have it in my cellar. So yes, Jeremy's been hoarding Chardonnay for you guys. So so I think that's still even with the hoarding, we are going to run out before we get onto the 2025. But it's new and delicious and yummy right now. So I think that's a good thing. And I feel slightly anxious that it's slipping down quite so well at 9 o'clock in the morning. But hey, woo! I've just got to sit on a train all day, so I think we're all right. It is a very British name, Fiona, and I know that there was some talk about cider before I started talking about that wine. And I think it would be good use of those big old British apples to make cider. But again, got to get out of those supermarket contracts. I think if they get out of the supermarket contracts, then the supermarket doesn't buy anything from them, and then they've got to work out a different way of selling it, which is harder and not traditional and modern traditional. I think that the decisions that are made are maybe, they're farmers. They know their business. They know how to farm stuff, and maybe not all of them are great business people. But I'm not. Back to cider. I'm not a huge cider fan, but I think that cider is something that they should be continuing to make here as well. Okay, I'm going to eat a little bit of this croissant while I'm reading your comments. Nareem and the guys went to Tattinger tasting last week. Clovis, yeah, I went to Evremont. Domaine Evremont is Tattinger's new project. It's terrific. Those wines are really, really good. I hope that we get some bits and pieces to. I hope we get to some bits and pieces of these English sparkling wines in Australia. I think it's going to be hard for them to sell because they're expensive and people don't know that they can make good wine in Britain yet. So they're going to have to do quite a bit of talking and marketing and putting wine in glasses and showing off. But I think if they do the work, then I think that they could have a very good market in Australia for some of these wines because they are delicious. And the Taittinger, the Domaine Evremont is one of the, I'll put up some more photos on the social medias over the next little while. But Domaine Evremont was beautiful. It was just absolutely pristine. They told us they'd spent £20 million on the winery setup. So forget about the vineyards. It's like £20 million. How are you ever going to make that money back? But they reckon that they've got a plan. They've got a business plan that they're going to make that money back in 10 years. So that could explain why the wines are so expensive. Okay. Kay got a note from Bass and Flinders that they have an apple brandy, only 2 barrels. Yeah, on the Mornington Peninsula it was all apples before grapes, and now we've kind of we don't see a lot of good apple trees anymore, which is a bit sad. Cotty, better without the carbonara. Okay, good tip. Yeah. I think the problem with carbonara is because of the egginess and the gloopiness of the sauce, and it does tend to kind of block the taste buds a little bit. So you need something a little bit with high acid to cut through it. But I think you're right, probably better without carbonara. Okay. Fee, expensive. Price points, they're the same price as champagne. So starting the entry level ones are selling here at sort of oh, it's a squirrel. I thought it was something more exciting, but it's a squirrel running across the lawn. Still pretty cute. The price of the wines in England starts around £35, which is about $70-80 without the sort of the import taxes. And it goes up from there. So some of the wines that we tasted were £160, £200, which is like, $500 a bottle. So they're very expensive. The really expensive ones were generally pretty impressive as well. And that's why I really like the Sugrue South Downs wines, because they weren't cheap, but they seemed to be really good value for money. So Kay's wholemeal pasta did work well with the wine. Oh, good. Complemented that truffly note. Rita, matching well with your carbonara made with guanciale. Guanciale is good. No, Alison drank Night Timber regularly, but the French still wins out. Was 7 years ago. Yeah, I mean, I think there are some sparkling English wines that come in just under the champagnes. So I think that's what they're trying to do here. It's just when they export them to Australia, there's the extra taxes that we pay on wine. There's the cost of importing wine, all of that on top. So it does make the wines quite expensive. So we don't see that range of sort of cheap and cheerful sort of $20 to $35 bottles of sparkling wine here that we see in Australia from all of our sparkling wine producers. They're not the best sparkling wines in the world and are not trying to compete with champagne, but are really good value for money. Yeah, absolutely. Rita points for the guanciale. I was talking to friends who it's a really long way to ship to, Alison, so freshness can be an issue too, and sparkling wine damages more than table wine when it gets heat affected or anything like that. So, all of those things are considerations. Speaking of heat affected, we have just put together the wines for box 5, which is very exciting. And so that'll be, if you're on a subscription, Pete will be probably moving those subscriptions around a little bit. So if you did want to skip this next box, God knows why you would, but if you did, then probably just keep an eye out for an email from Wine Club about that, because that'll be going through sometime in the next week, maybe. But we've organised box 5. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to take us up to 4 weeks out from Christmas, so we're going to have to work out what we're going to do with our last few Christmas tasting bits. You're absolutely right, Jeremy. No carbonara without guanciale. If you can get guanciale, that is, it does make all the difference. Alison's already had it. Excellent, good. Yeah, I think Pete. I sent the info through to Pete last week, and so he and Jeremy are working, and Leonie are working on that while I'm out here swanning around having fun. Ha ha. I haven't seen Loans on the chat yet. Are you there, Loans? Hi. Yeah, so the box 5 is going to be really fun. It'll be, if it's not on the website already, it'll be on soon, so you can have a look at what's on there. But I was speaking about heat damage, and we're not sending you a heat damaged wine. Don't worry. We are sending you a bottle, a clean skin with a label that we've made ourselves, of wine that has been cold stabilized in bottle, thanks to it going into a cold part of the cellar over winter. And that's going to be really fun, because the wine will still taste delicious, but we're going to have to deal with the crystals that have been created by the cold stabilization. We're going to talk about that. We'll talk about that a little bit more. We are going to be tasting the 2023 Robinson Chardonnay as one of our new releases. We have a wonderful guest wine, which is a Grenache made by our friend and uber viticulturist Dylan Grigg, who has been helping us out with a little bit of our viticultural, some of the big think issues. And Dylan, those of you who read the wine press will know that he won Viticulturist of the Year in the Halliday Guide. He's also won some other prizes for being an awesome viticulturist through different groups, and he's just an all-round legend. So more about that closer to the time. We've got one more wine to do from the drinks from this box, which we won't be doing next week because I'll be on a plane coming home. So you guys have another break next week. Do drink something lovely on Thursday, just to stay in the habit, I think, is important. But we'll be doing the Ministry of Clouds. I always want to call it the little black dress, because that's not what it is, but it's the Shiraz Pinot blend. There you go. I've let the cat out of the bag what the blend is. That's going to be lots of fun. LDR, little red dress, little black dress. LDR, light, dry, red is what LDR stands for. Leonie's at Cellar Circle meeting. Okay, cool. A Pedro Jimenez tasting could be good, Fee. That sounds like a fun thing to do. Christmas dress-ups. This is Rita. Good idea. And Alison's voted for a champagne tasting again. I think that we can definitely do that before Christmas. I think that could be really fun. So we'll keep working on that plan. We might do just one special wine, which is an optional subscription. We'll see what happens. Let's leave that planning for it. But isn't it horrendous that we're having to plan for Christmas already? It is still September, I think. But everyone's advertising their Christmas parties here in the UK. So Kay had a magic lunch last week at Nomad with a PX rice pudding. Oh my God, that sounds amazing. So delicious. So I think that if anyone's got any other questions or comments, let's have another taste of that Chardonnay if you've still got some in your bottle. I think it's opening up beautifully in the glass. It's smelling and tasting more of the croissant that I've got next to me, but that might be the croissant sending out its aromas. It's quite a good croissant, even though it's a bit squishy. And honeyed white blossom kind of notes. Really, really gorgeous. I love the wine too, Alison. I'm glad you've enjoyed it. It's been really fun, and I'm really glad that we managed to get a good enough signal to be able to talk about it for nearly 40 minutes. So I'm going to take the rest of this bottle of Chardonnay with me on the train. I'm not going to drink it on the train. I'm going to drink it with my friends in Overton tonight before our Moorooduc Estate wine dinner. I've got a whole heap of friends who are coming to join me at this dinner, so that'll be really fun. So we'll have a little glass of Chardonnay 2024 as an aperitif before we go to dinner. Thank you, Emily and Kevin. Thank you, everyone. I will continue to travel safely. I've got a little walk with my new suitcase down to the station in about half an hour. Cambridge is a beautiful town, and the sun's just come out, so it's a great time to be alive and traveling. So Thank you, everyone. It wasn't much of a sacrifice, Cotty, I have to say. And I will see you all in a fortnight on this screen. And in the meantime, stay well and have lots of fun. Friends live in Melbourne, Cambridge. Sue and Jeff, I will enjoy. Thank you, everyone. Love you lots. Take it easy. And extra points for Shell and Andrew and for Dan for tuning in from this side of the world for breakfast drinking. Special occasions only. Take it easy, everyone. Bye. Bye, Shell. Thanks. Good work. That's unreal. And continue traveling well, Shell and Andrew. I hope Paris doesn't throw up too many protests for you. I look forward to comparing travel notes when we all get back. All right. See you later, guys. Love you lots. Bye.